Welcome back to MSNBC Live. I'm Carlos Watson. Now, in addition to an address before a joint session of Congress, President Obama is also preparing to address the nation's schoolchildren next week. But critics are now accusing the president of imposing a political agenda in the classroom. James Peterson, professor of English and African Studies at Bucknell and founder of Hip Hop Scholars Incorporated, joins us now. We're also joined again by Congressman Bill Cassidy, who's joins us on the phone from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Also joined again by my co-host today, Roy Seekoff. Congressman, let me turn to you first. The president is scheduled to speak on Tuesday to the nation's children, encouraging them, among other things, to study hard, to be tenacious, to be responsible. And yet we're hearing some critics accuse him of trying to spread a socialist agenda, to do something wrong and untoward here. In your mind, have they crossed a line when they criticize this president, our 44th commander-in-chief, for doing a little more than what I think we'd hope any president would do, which is encourage our students to work hard and do more?
Well, a couple things. Of course, we know that other presidents have done this, and I applaud the president for being concerned about education. But Roy mentioned earlier about how we got 60 votes and we got a majority, let's push something through. And it's that sort of Washington-centric attitude that has everybody on pins and needles, if you will, every place else regarding what's coming down. There has been such a kind of, and again, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but the perception from the out in Baton Rouge, for example, in Des Moines, in some area of Pennsylvania, is that Washington is foisting something on us with slick talk and being disingenuous.
Congressman, first of all, I live in Los Angeles, so I don't live in Washington. I'm not part of the Beltway, but I respect you. I think you're one of the more reasonable people in the Congress. You've blogged on the Huffington Post. You reach across the aisle to work with the Sunlight Foundation. So I really have to ask you on this point. You gotta be kidding me. I mean, this is a Joseph Welch moment. You have to say to the GOP, have you no shame, sir? I mean, is there no decency left that you are going to criticize the President of the United States for telling school kids to do their homework? This is bonkers. The lunatics have taken over the asylum, and I hope you'll agree with that.
No, Roy, actually, the question was different than that. It is not Republicans. I haven't talked to any Republicans. I'm reading about it on the newspaper. I'm reading about it. This is the people talking. I don't know if they're D's or R's or independents. But if your question to me, Carlos, is the concern among parents valid, that is not something that's being put out by the GOP. That's being something put out by a group of parents saying, why is he asking my kids what my kids can do to help him?
That's not what I'm seeing. I'm looking at all the blogs. I'm looking at all the talk show hosts, the people who are stirring it up, and that's who it is. It's the same echo chamber coming from the right saying the most ridiculous things, including your colleagues like Senator Inhofe, who says that he wants to release terrorists in America. He's obsessed with it. Well, that's crazy.
I haven't read the senator's comments. What I'm talking to is the DJs in Baton Rouge who are on drive time radio are getting phone calls from people in the community asking, why is the president asking my children what they can do to help him? Now, if the question is why is there this outrage? I think it's the perception that there is a disconnect between Washington and what's happening in the community, if you will.
Dr. Peterson, I want you to jump in here. Your thoughts as you get ready to see the president address the nation's school children on Tuesday.
Sure, this is a time-honored tradition that we have of presidents addressing school children. I think it's a little bit cynical that it's being corrupted by some of the political maneuvers from the right. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, there was a leading figure in the Republican Party out of Florida who issued a statement. Now, yes, he's saying he's trying to galvanize parents around this issue, but to me it just seems it smacks of political cynicism. He wants to tell kids to stay in school and to study hard. There was some bureaucrat along the way who mentioned that students may write a letter to the president, but that did not come from the White House. The White House is doing what the White House has done my entire life, which is send the president out to public schools to try to generate interest and energy around public education in the United States. It's a noble cause. We should be supporting him here instead of trying to tear down everything that the president does.
Professor Peterson, one other question here. As you hear the larger conversation about whether or not there is legitimate and reasonable angst in lots of parts of the country, particularly GOP-dominated parts, or whether or not a fair amount of this is crossing the line in terms of criticizing the president. Your thoughts is as we come upon September and a new congressional session.
There is legitimate angst, but and I mean this to say this with all respect to the congressman, I'm not sure if I would read the kind of vitriolic responses that we're seeing in town hall meetings as being indicative or representative of the entire American populace. Sometimes a vocal minority turns out for some of these political gatherings, not all the time, but sometimes a vocal minority turns out for these political gatherings just so that they can intimidate and in some ways influence the political process. And as many people on your network have already established, these kind of grassroots/astroturf movements are actually driving people to some of these events. So I'm not sure if that's a good measure of the American people. Yes, we do want some kind of health care reform, and there are different opposing opinions and people coming from different sides, but the town hall meetings are not the sole indicator of where the American public is on health care reform.
All right, we're going to leave it there for now. Congressman Cassidy, thank you so much for joining us. Professor James Peterson from Bucknell, appreciate you both joining us. Look forward to having you both again soon.
Thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, an unexpected